What is gifted? Covering misconceptions, definitions, programs, and brains. I'm Kyle Walls, the Odyssey Coordinator and teacher for the Merrimack Valley R3 School District. Goals. Clear some misconceptions about giftedness. Understand how gifted is defined in Missouri. Understand affective needs. Understand purposes of a gifted program. Understand how gifted brains are different. Learn some differences between bright and gifted learners. The basics. Gifted is not a synonym for smart. Any student can be smart. Smart is a relative term. Ask any teacher and you'll probably get as many different answers for what smart means as you ask teachers. High IQ, creativity, problem solving, perception, and or abstraction may not manifest as smart. Gifted is not an expectation. Educators should expect all students to excel and succeed. Depending on the topic, gifted students might learn faster or have existing knowledge. Conversely, a particular topic may be difficult. As a group, gifted students vary like any other population. Basics review. How do you define smart? How would you approach and or differentiate for a struggling student? Would that change if you knew the student is gifted? How would you approach and or differentiate for a student who learns quickly? How is creativity, problem solving, and abstract higher order thinking included in the curriculum that you teach? We'll pause to allow for reflection. Defining gifted in Missouri. As a public school in Missouri, our state's Department of Secondary and Elementary Education defines gifted. Gifted students must meet the following criteria: intelligence at or above 95th percentile, academic achievement at or above 95th percentile, outstanding ability in creative and productive thinking, advanced insight, outstanding imagination, innovative or creative reasoning ability, advanced perception of cause and effect relationships, problem solving, abstract concepts. Giftedness is represented by the rightmost column of the bell curve. That means the person has exceptional capacity in various areas. Being gifted does not necessarily mean that the person will get all A's or that everything will be easy. Like students in the left column having peaks and valleys in performance, students in the right column also do. For some gifted students, general education classes may never touch on any areas in which they demonstrate gifts or talents. That is why schools have programs to support gifted students and provide them other opportunities. Some thoughts about giftedness. Should Thomas Edison set the curve in industrial engineering? Should Benjamin Franklin have aced rhetoric and science? Should John D. Rockefeller have excelled in an MBA program? Should Albert Einstein have passed every test with ease? Or should a talented quarterback automatically be a great swimmer? Should someone who excels in history find chemistry or physics easy? To each question, the answer is no. The example people are famous for not being well schooled or failing subjects in which they later became leaders or innovated. The other examples relate to people who assume gifted means good at everything. Gifted is not an excuse, but an explanation. Gifted students are students. Therefore, they vary just like any other population, and they do not fit a mold of behavior with one possible exception. More on that later. When you think gifted, think, I wonder in what area or areas they excel, or I wonder how they perceive this topic. Avoid pulling the gifted card by thinking, they're in gifted class, they should be getting an A. That example is a quote from a student. Definition review. How familiar are you with gifted program requirements? How would you summarize requirements to a parent? What are different ways you can break down concepts for students who may have high frustration levels? A chief complaint of gifted students is that teachers don't get gifted. What would be some ways to hold students accountable while being supportive of their giftedness? We'll pause to allow for reflection. Affective needs. Affective needs are the combined social and emotional needs of the student. In this area, gifted student needs are often more acute than other students. Due to increased neural density, they can have more varied and intense social and emotional behaviors. Understand that gifted is not a choice. Like someone born with a limp and learning to cope, dealing with being gifted can be frustrating and alienating. Be aware of these challenges and needs. Affective needs can manifest as strengths or weaknesses, or even as both. On the strengths and weaknesses table, as we go through each row, try to imagine students that you know, and notice how sometimes gifted students might demonstrate both strong and weak aspects of behavior as part of their giftedness. Acquires, retains information quickly, impatient with others, dislikes basic routine. Intrinsic motivation, strong-willed, resists direction, enjoys problem solving, able to conceptualize, abstract, synthesize, resists routine practice, questions teaching procedures, seeks cause-effect relationships, dislikes unclear, illogical areas, for example, traditions or feelings, creative, inventive, likes new ways of doing things, may be seen as disruptive and out of step. This comes from an article on hoagiesgifted.org. The address is at the bottom of the slide. All students face social challenges and expectations. As people who care about students, we need to be aware of the impact of our actions on students. Taken from Helping Adolescents Adjust to Giftedness is the following quotation. Teachers in secondary schools in particular have tried to disprove the talents of individual students, saying in effect, "Prove to me you are as gifted as you think you are." Coping with adolescence while also proving oneself again and again in a classroom or peer group significantly drains energy allocated for the normal task of adjustment and leads to frequent frustration and isolation. The address to the article, again on hoagiesgifted.org, is at the bottom of the slide. In general, be aware of the heightened sensibilities of gifted students. Understand that, like many other students, social and emotional forces may get in the way of life. Part of the purpose of a gifted program is to support students through their growth. Be fair by supporting and encouraging these students and thinking about their needs. Affective review. How would you describe affective needs to a gifted student? Think about the strengths and weaknesses table. What are ways to redirect negative behavior, and what are ways you would reward positive behavior? Think of the quote in the article, "Prove to me you're as gifted as you think you are." What are ways to address a student's issues without mentioning their giftedness? We'll pause to allow time for reflection. Support programs. Many people have misconceptions about gifted support programs. Because these programs allow for exploration and variety, many assume these programs are for play. Play may be a fitting word at times because the scope of a program's curriculum focuses on enrichment. Do not confuse enrichment with a lack of rigor. Gifted students are pushed to solve problems and to apply knowledge. In addition to academics, gifted programs work to support students' affective or social and emotional needs. Like other support programs for students, gifted students may need guidance and assurance as they grow. Programs should help students learn positive coping skills. Negative defense mechanisms may develop otherwise. Keep in mind that being gifted does not end at a certain age. Students may need support throughout their entire school career and maybe even beyond. Here are some lesson examples to show you the different types of activities that go on different levels of gifted classrooms. For elementary, simulating business aspects of society to create a self-contained economic system, creating habitat models to reflect biology research, practicing Robert's Rules of Order. For middle school, analyzing survey data using Pearson R correlation, practicing for the ACT, using Google's jQuery code library to create animated web pages, building teamwork and leadership skills. For high school, programming algebraic concepts with JavaScript, analyzing and applying elements of design, studying classical literature and word etymology, investigating the operation of their own intellect. Support programs review. What are activities in the curriculum you teach that are enrichment? How does enrichment add to the overall curriculum? Affective areas can be included in all lessons for all students. An affective area that overlaps with peer coaching is interpersonal communication. What are some ways you can include peer coaching, interpersonal skills, in your lessons? Often, a gifted teacher will ask general education teachers for ideas, topics that would work well with a deeper level of detail. What are some topics from your curriculum that you would suggest? We'll pause to allow time for reflection. Gifted brains. A universal component of identifying gifted students is evaluating intelligence. High intelligence means that the brain has a greater density of neural connections than average. Many of the behaviors of gifted students make sense when realizing this point. Remember, knowing why a behavior happens does not mean the behavior should be tolerated or that the behavior is acceptable. Look at the diagram that shows a way average IQ brains may process. In brains, information can be clustered together. When thinking or remembering, neurons fire along a path. A metaphor for this activity is driving around city blocks and picking up information from each block. Look at the diagram for high IQ brains. A gifted brain is like the city blocks having roads between all houses. When thinking or remembering, the amount of information can be more detailed, more random, may get stuck in a loop, or may come out normal. Some other thoughts on brains. All types of brains can have neural density clusters. This is how someone with an IQ of 80 can excel in an area and someone with an IQ of 135 can struggle. Giftedness means there are more neural clusters than average. Accepting struggle. This idea was explained to a gifted student who felt bad about struggling in school. Brains are like batteries. Some come out of the pack with non-average voltage like a 1.7 volt AA. That battery won't perform better in a remote, but might in a flashlight. Likewise, some devices are optimized for slightly used batteries, 1.35 volts. Batteries perform better at certain jobs. until the battery runs out. Figure out how to best use it. Read the quote from Einstein and think about your impact as a teacher on all your students, from gifted to general education to special education students. Think about how we measure what they actually know. Gifted Brains Review. What is another metaphor for gifted brains? Think of a metaphor with a verbal and visual component. How would you describe gifted brains to a gifted student? Think about Einstein's quote. What are ways teachers can best include all brain types in activities, lessons, and assessments? We'll pause to allow time for reflection. Bright versus gifted. Accepting previous portions of this presentation, many people often think of traits of bright students when they think of gifted students. Going back to the image of the bell curve, bright is usually descriptive of the band next to gifted. Understand that like any population, traits and behaviors are general. A particular student may or may not exhibit a trait. Being able to distinguish bright or high achiever and gifted is difficult. The difficulty is due in large part to not all gifted students being high achievers. The following quotes are from the article, The Bright Child versus the Gifted Learner. What's the difference? From Psychology Today. Points are followed by comments. A bright child knows the answers. The gifted learner asks the questions. Sometimes gifted students will interrupt with questions, and the process of questioning takes priority. A bright child works hard to achieve. The gifted learner knows without working hard. This point is misleading. Often a gifted student will know material and/or learn it quicker, but not always. The truer meaning of this point is that gifted learners may intellectualize material to a greater degree. A bright child enjoys school. The gifted learner enjoys self-directed learning. The point reflects the high degree of curiosity of gifted learners. For example, a student may be interested in vinyl recordings and how they work. A gifted learner will seek out the purpose of the different speeds, learn details of dub plates, and correctly use the nomenclature for different types of vinyl releases. A bright child has a fine imagination. The gifted learner uses that imagination to experiment with ideas and hunches. An example of this point is how a student may connect two unrelated areas. A gifted learner will demonstrate a greater level of sophistication and originality. Also, a gifted learner will have a deeper understanding of why and be able to naturally apply that concept. Bright versus gifted review. What is a strategy for supporting yet redirecting a student who is a persistent asker of questions? How can you include self-directed learning in activities? What is a change to a lesson you use that includes both imagination and depth of detail? Put into your own words a distinguishing trait of bright and gifted learners. We'll pause to allow time for reflection. Summary. Gifted is not a synonym for smart. Smart is a relative term. Gifted is not an expectation. Gifted is not an excuse, but gifted is an explanation. Gifted is defined in Missouri as demonstrating 95 percentile or greater intelligence and achievement and/or outstanding ability. Affective needs are combined social and emotional needs. Affective needs may manifest as strengths or weaknesses. Please be aware and fair to students as they grow. Gifted programs are intended to challenge students and often enrich. Programs also support affective needs of students. Gifted brains have physiological differences which may lead to certain behaviors, negative and/or positive. Gifted brains are not necessarily good at everything, even though sometimes these students are very quick learners. Bright learners know answers, work hard, enjoy school, and have fine imaginations. Gifted learners pursue questions, may know without working hard, enjoy self-directed learning, and do imaginative experimentation. One more point. An excellent video is The Misdiagnosis of Gifted Children, produced by SENG, supporting the emotional needs of the gifted. The video can be found on YouTube. The video discusses the difficulty of distinguishing between various childhood traits and properly diagnosing gifted children. Thank you for your time. I hope you have a better understanding of what gifted is. Thank you.